I think it was kind of a threat, but I've done stuff that they probably don't like. And I'm in my house today. I'll leave that up to you to decide what you do for yourself. I recorded this video without audio, so I'm doing it all over again. Today, we are talking about the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Shield that is on the California handgun roster. We're going to be talking about some improvements that you can make to that firearm to make it a better gun. And we're going to talk about how the California Department of Justice in the Boland versus Bonta court case made claims in their testimony by their experts that were not challenged by their lawyers that doing some of these modifications would be considered manufacturing an unsafe handgun and would therefore be illegal. Keep in mind, these modifications do not make the gun full auto, do not increase the capacity to over 10 rounds in the magazine, does not add a threaded barrel or making it an assault weapon otherwise, and should not be considered illegal or manufacturing, even though the DOJ thinks so. Yet somehow, doing these simple modifications that make the gun more effective and more reliable and safer is illegal. Let's roll some footage.
All right, so this is the Smith & Wesson Shield. This one is milled for a red dot. You can get this from Spectre Tech Labs. This has the Shield Mag Guts Plus 2 extension, which, as you can see based on where that little edge of the nub here is, it's really only about 1/4 of an inch longer than the standard 8-round mag. This backup mag is actually an 8-round mag with the Shield Plus 1. It does not add any length to the magazine. 10 rounds, cycled, locked back. Now let's see, this should be 8 rounds unless I counted wrong when I put them in. 8, assuming I counted right while shooting. But this might be the best option for a concealed carry pistol if you want to have a micro compact with a red dot.
So the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Shield in the state of California is one of the very few options that we have for a on-roster pistol that we can just purchase without paying 3 to 4 times MSRP from a cop on CalGuns. So if you want to buy a gun new, not used, not at an insane markup, the Shield is really one of the better options, even though I personally dislike the Shield. I really hate it. I've owned one before. I think it's a terrible gun, in my opinion. But let's talk about how you can make it a better gun. So, the big improvements that you can make to make this gun more modern and more competitive in the current era, I think would be allowing this gun to just first of all, have higher capacity magazines while still staying under the 10 round limit in the state of California, being able to mount a red dot, having a better trigger, and removing some of the unneeded, unreliable, unsafe safety features that are installed on this firearm from the beginning. So the first one that isn't really a concern because it's not something that I heard the DOJ mention in any specific way, and it doesn't do anything that would make it inherently illegal. The Mag Guts magazine extension / magazine capacity increasing device. Mag Guts uses flat springs inside their magazines, and I'm not going to show you any of this stuff because YouTube has been kind of weird lately, so I have to be kind of delicate with what I do, so I'm sorry. Things are changing. The Mag Gut system increases the capacity of your 7 or 8 round magazine with either a +1 that is flush or a +2 magazine extension that would make the magazines, if you put the +2 on the 8 round magazine, it would make it a 10 round magazine that's only about 1/4 inch longer than the 8 round magazine. So for 1/4 inch of length, which is completely negligible in terms of concealed carry, you get a 10 round +1 in the chamber gun versus an 8 +1 gun. To me, that's worth it. With the flush fit mag, you get a 8 round mag. So you can either do a +1 or a +2, and they both work on both magazines, giving you an either, which would give you the ability to have an 8 round mag that's flush and a 10 round mag that's extended, which for me, I think is awesome. I think it's a great addition to these guns. Keep in mind, now, when I posted that I was getting these, people warned me on Instagram that these are very temperamental, very difficult to install. They did not do a good enough job warning me. These are very, very finicky to install. The springs just don't want to line up right. Read the instructions. read the instructions again, and then read the instructions a third time, and then try to install them. I would not recommend just freeballing this like I did, because you will have problems. However, when I took my time after reading the instructions, it went together no problem. And since I have put about maybe 500 rounds through the gun with those 2 magazines, perfectly reliable, even with some other modifications that have been made to that gun, which I will reiterate, the gun is not mine. Cali DOJ, stay out of my house. So that gun, the Smith & Wesson Shield, getting the capacity higher, huge increase to the ability to use this gun in a defensive situation. More capacity is better. It just is. And it's not illegal to have a 10-round mag gun, so you're good. The next modification that I think pretty much everyone with a Shield makes, that the California Department of Justice, DOJ, the Latinx member of the DOJ, who is a head of the roster division, he specifically said this was illegal to do, was removing the magazine disconnect. Now, the lawyers from the DOJ, I believe it went like this. The lawyer from the DOJ asked him about the magazine disconnect, asked if they would be difficult to remove, and then he asked, would it be illegal to remove the magazine disconnect mechanism? The DOJ roster guy said, yes, it would be considered manufacturing an unsafe handgun. At which point, the state's lawyer did not counter him on that. So it can be assumed that the DOJ is of the opinion that removing the magazine disconnect from a on-roster firearm would be considered manufacturing an unsafe handgun. I'm not a lawyer, not legal advice. I disagree. I don't know a single lawyer that does agree that removing the magazine disconnect is considered an unsafe handgun. Kind of strange for them to leave that in there and allow him to say that when they would know that that wouldn't be illegal. I think it was kind of a threat, but I've done stuff that they probably don't like, and I'm in my house today. I'll leave that up to you to decide what you do for yourself. So I think a lot of people really do enjoy removing the magazine disconnect. For me, I have had them fail on guns. I have seen them fail on guns. I believe Lance Boland, in his testimony when he was testifying, said that in his SIG P226, he was shooting at the range with a gun that gun has a magazine disconnect. He's shooting, all of a sudden, gun won't fire. He puts a new mag in, and now the gun won't fire. He takes the mag out, tries to put a new mag in. Now the gun won't even accept the magazine because the magazine disconnect failed on him in a way that could not be remedied without complete disassembly of the firearm. He specifically said that if that had happened while he was in a gunfight in a defensive situation, that he would have died. The magazine disconnect safety can get you killed in discreets. It can get you killed in discreets. You do not want that. So removing that, highly recommended. Now, I'm going to talk about removing the loaded chamber indicator, but in the method that I'm going to talk about that, I'm going to be talking about how I believe that pistols should have red dots on them. I think red dots on pistols are the future. The technology is viable, the technology is reliable, and the technology is very available. However, on the Shield, it's kind of difficult. There's not very many good options, which is why I'm really excited to talk about Spectre Tech Labs. They sent me out a red dot ready Shield slide. This slide, I swapped all of the parts out of my existing slide, threw it into that slide, threw on my RMR, which was actually a RMR CC Hollow Sun, I believe it is. So their slide can accept full-size Trijicon RMR pattern red dots, including the Hollow Suns, or the micro RMR CC, I believe it is. I can't remember the name of the footprint, but it's the micro-sized red dots, and that's awesome. It just has two different optic mounting plates. You still get iron sights with this gun, and you have the ability to mount any of the most popular red dots on the market on this gun. Now, in doing so, it removes that little loaded chamber indicator, which I personally hate. The loaded chamber indicator, I have had fail on one of the Shields that I used to own, and I had to replace it, which, if it breaks and I have to take it out in order to put a new one in, it might be the California Department of Justice opinion that I actually manufactured an unsafe handgun temporarily. Maybe. I don't know. You tell me. So for me, I think that the loaded chamber indicator cannot be relied on. Nobody that instructs people on how to use a firearm would ever teach you to rely on a loaded chamber indicator, because if it breaks, it's telling you false information. You always have to drop the mag, pull back, check to see that it's empty. If you are trying to do a press check to confirm that it is in fact loaded like you believe it to be, you would just pull back slightly on the slide, see that there is a round in the chamber, maybe tap it on the back, make sure it goes all the way back into battery, and you're good to go. Never rely on the loaded chamber indicator. When mine broke, it no longer stuck up even if there was a round in the chamber. That's bad. I don't need to explain to you why that's bad. If you have something telling you unloaded, 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 but in fact the gun is loaded, you're going to Baldwin someone. Not ideal. So the modifications to this shield gives you 10 rounds or 8 rounds in a flush fit, very small, compact size. It gets rid of the magazine disconnect, gets rid of the loaded chamber indicator, allows you to mount a red dot to the gun. Now, the trigger on the M&P Shield is quite possibly the worst trigger I've ever used on a semi-automatic handgun, and I have shot a Mac 11. The Shield trigger it's booty. It's terrible. There is a reason that in the new M&P lineup, they advertise the trigger improvements because they're aware that their first iteration was terrible. Unfortunately, some jurisdictions in the state of California for a concealed carry firearm don't allow trigger or internal modifications, which would remove you the ability to get rid of the magazine disconnect, and more importantly, would also affect your ability to swap out the trigger. If you're going to swap out the trigger on the Shield, I highly recommend the Apex Duty Carry Kit. I've used it. It was great. It gets rid of that terrible hinge trigger and gives you more of like that Glock shoe safety, which for me is a massive improvement. The Shield trigger is terrible. Change it if you can. I highly recommend you change it if you can. So let me know what you guys think down below, whether it's about the roster lawsuit, whether it's about the stuff that the DOJ said, or whether it's just about the Shield in general, what you modified to your liking. If you think that you're interested in a red dot capable Shield with 10 rounds, let me know down below. Even though it gets the gun almost close to as good, the DOJ is still saying it's illegal to do that. So I'm going to find it very hard for them to argue in court that you have adequate equal options when you objectively don't, and they're saying that if you want to make the options you have better, you're actually breaking the law. Let me know what you guys think down below. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.